Once we've gained some comfort with the half or the single right shoulder toss where we catch it barrel down in that Statue of Liberty position, the next move that we can start to work towards is what we would call a 1.5 shoulder toss, and it looks like this. As you can see, it's very similar to that single Liberty toss, but we're going to let the rifle come around another half rotation before grasping it on the sling side and bringing it down barrel forward. So watch that again. The prep is the same. We've already learned that. The toss is essentially the same. Now watch where my hand goes. The rifle has the same amount of spin with just a little bit more height. So the only variable we're changing is lifting it up higher. And I'm catching the rifle at about a 45, slightly angled position on the sling before bringing the rifle under my arm, and depending on what I want to do next, grasping either the sling or the barrel to stop that rifle. So how do we do this? Just like the single right shoulder toss where we catch at an upwards position, we have to think about lifting up before we think about pulling backwards. And in this case, we're going to lift just slightly higher, but apply the same amount of force. So however much force we used to go here, same amount of force, we're just going to allow the rifle to be raised higher. Now when we do this, a couple of things happen. You know, we're talking about throwing the rifle in the air, and so sometimes we like to think about pulling back and away because we're worried about the rifle being too close to us. If you watch how this rotation is centered, it is directly above my shoulder for the majority of the spin. So if we find ourselves pulling to the side, it's going to be very hard and difficult to control that rifle, and in fact, we may risk more injury. So when we come up, and imagine we have the rifle in our prep position, we're going to come up through the armpit and pull back over the shoulder, keeping in mind that our hand has to stay aligned to the top of the shoulder at all times. We do not want it to go outboard. So when we do this, we lift, pull backwards, and what we're looking for the entire time is the center of the rifle. We're looking for the center of rotation, and we're looking for that moment when the sling becomes visible, and in a taco grip or a V grip, we're going to go up and make contact with that sling. When we do that, the next stage is to bring the rifle down from the air, and this is what gets a little bit confusing. As soon as we catch, we are going to rotate the rifle in, twisting our wrist in towards our body, and that's going to point the sling down. As we do that, we're going to tuck the rifle under the arm so that we have good control of it, so it's a roll inward. From here, depending on what we want to do next, we're either going to grasp the sling or grasp the barrel. If we want to stop the rifle and have that be the final position, we're going to shoot to grab the barrel. If we need to spin, and we just do a single spin out of it, we're going to grasp the sling. Now, things that could happen while we're working on this. One of the things is we get that twisting motion of the rifle, and it's especially pronounced here because the rifle can actually angle itself and come down to the 45. That means that our hand is trailing outboard. So again, go back to doing it without the rifle, do the check. Am I going up over my shoulder, or am I pulling away to get that spin? If the hand goes away, the rifle is going to spin as it comes down. If we have a rotation issue, it's not spinning far enough, or if we have an issue where we're really struggling to lift that rifle up and then pull back, that's largely a strength issue. That's going to come from, again, developing the back, the shoulders, and the lats so that we have the supporting power to lift the rifle high in the air before we apply the backwards force. So once again, 1.5 shoulder toss. And when we do that, we're going to attempt to pin our hands mid-air. We can choose, as we're kind of learning, to only pin our left hand and let that right hand track along with the rifle. And the more comfortable we get from there, we can go ahead and remove pinning both of the hands in the middle of that toss. So that is our 1.5 right shoulder toss.